All right, welcome back. Ashley, Keller Williams, Real Estate Everett. We're reading Backdoor Revolution. So, man, I was going to try to combine, chapter 3, the financing, and chapter 4. Let's see what it's called, the name of it, chapter 4. I think it's costs and management of development. But you know what? The financing chapter was so good. I went back and reviewed it again, and I think maybe it just stands on its own. Okay? So here's the thing that's really cool about ADU financing, in my opinion, is if you're a homeowner and you're like, how can I invest in real estate? Right? Like you own your own primary. Okay, that's all you've got. All right. And you're like, okay, I want to make a real estate investment. One of the really cool ways to do that is by adding an ADU. So you could add that ADU to your basement. You could add that ADU to a detached garage. You could convert that garage into an ADU. Or you could say, oh, I have enough space on my property. I'm going to go ahead and just build a completely detached ADU and have it on my property, right? Because here's the thing, if you go and look at what it costs to go and buy a multifamily property, at least here in Snohomish County, it's actually quite expensive to buy one, right? You want to go buy a duplex or a triplex, right? I am pretty confident that you could, for less money, add an ADU, and that ADU, the cost of it would be very close to the 1% rule, okay? And if you're not familiar with 1% rule, basically it says that, you want to look for properties where the rent is 1% of the cost to buy it, right? And so here's the problem. When you buy, a regular duplex, right? Here in the area, I mean, what's a duplex run you? $700,000. That's just for a normal run-of-the-mill one. So that means that each unit's $350. The rents here are not $350. No, sorry, they're not $3,500. Okay, but if you did an ADU, right? Just think about this for a second. You're like, oh, okay, I have a basement. I can make a 3-bedroom, 1-bath ADU in my basement or whatever, right? And you convert that ADU in the basement, and let's say that costs you $250. Okay, it only costs you $250 instead of $700. It costs you $250. All right, and maybe you might get some debt on it. Who knows? Okay, but you buy it, you do the $250. I mean, you're going to be a lot closer to that 1% rule, because what's a 3-bed, 1-bath rent for? Yeah, it's in the 2000s, right? So you're pretty close, actually. So not only is it a good idea if you want to start doing some real estate investing and accumulating some passive income, but I think it kind of gets you more closer. It's a more conservative, right, approach to the beginning stages, perhaps, or maybe that's all you do. Maybe you're like, okay, I want to make a real estate investment. I'm going to add an ADU. I just need this one unit, and then that's all you do. You just get the one unit. Boom, you're done. Okay, all right. So I'm going to move on. I think it's pretty smart. But so here's the things that he hit on that I thought were important. I think that there's something to remember about this book. Okay, so this book was written, let's see here. It was written, I think it was 2018 or something like that. Yeah, so it was written in 2018. Okay, so now think about what the publication process was for this. It probably didn't come out right away. So it was built in 2018. It was written in 2018 before COVID. Okay, so in here he doesn't have in here. I just want to throw out this caveat. If you go get this book, his numbers don't include the increases that we've seen in the cost to build and labor and all that stuff, right? So there's some cute numbers in here. There's numbers in here oh, you can build an ADU for $100,000. I don't think so anymore. You might be able to do I would even question this. It depends on the age of the property, whether or not you could even do a basement conversion with that, okay? But here's the point of the numbers. The point of the numbers is you can use the numbers as principles, and you can use the proportions and the example equations to figure out okay, how profitable is this situation for me? So he takes 3 approaches. He looks at it from the perspective of reducing your mortgage payment. Okay, that's great, right? So, we were talking about you build one out and you add a renter, maybe they rent out your basement, or you do a detached unit, they rent out that detached unit, right? So could that offset your mortgage? Hell yeah. Especially, let's say you bought your house in 2015. Okay. So you bought your house almost 10 years ago. Your mortgage payment's actually probably really good. You go ahead and you say, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and add a unit to this. Like, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. I think you'll be pleased. The other perspective that he uses is the number of years to break even. This is really standard calculation. And then the return on investment. So the return on investment to me is like, it's a little bit more, in my opinion, sophisticated. But here's the thing. The beauty of looking at it from those three perspectives is that there's a lot of ways to make an ADU make sense if you're interested in like the money part, right? Like if you're like, okay, how can I make money with real estate? All right. So he goes into it, he delves in, he looks at the different ways that it would work. And so it seems like you get various numbers, but here's the beauty of this. Again, like I think if you go back and calculate these, or if you've been following investing for a while, I think the numbers are really good. You know, the numbers are really good. The numbers are really, really good. Okay. And then he talks a little bit about like, you know, how you pay the ADU off and all of that stuff, and then how you might finance it. Okay. So one of the ways, I think in this book, he talks a lot about how there's not really like, you know, bank financing options per se. And, you know, I would agree with that even today, more or less, right? I mean, the options that I see are you could get a construction loan. So there are banks that will give you a loan to add an ADU, and it's basically a construction loan. So you can get a construction loan or a renovation loan. Those are possible to do. They are not easy, but they're possible to do. The other thing that you could use is you could use a home equity line of credit, so a HELOC. So a lot of people, like if you bought your house back in 2012, you probably actually have a crap ton of equity. Like you could take that equity and you could build an ADU. Like just this, the beauty of this, you could take that equity out of there, build an ADU, and put that money to work. Right now, when it's sitting in your house and you're just paying the mortgage, man, you're not making that extra $2,000 a month. So take that home equity and put that home equity line to work, okay? So you can put it to work. That's an option. He lists perhaps getting a loan from friends or family. I mean, I don't know. That would probably like rank on my lowest option if I had to pick of all options. You know, because here's the thing, you know, when you're borrowing from friends and family, you really probably want to make sure that you're very structured. You have a structured repayment plan, all that stuff. So that would probably be like the lowest. Like he kind of almost has them like a little bit ranked. Like I think I would rather do a construction loan than borrow money from my friends. Okay. So non-secured loans and credit cards. I mean, I think that people should be really cautious here. The interest rates are high. He makes that same note. You know, it really depends. Right? I mean, so in some cases you can get like really good deals on like that kind of consumer debt, but you just want to make sure that when you're running your calculations, whether or not you're using return on investment or how it offsets your rent, you know, you just have to figure out like how you're going to manage the debt. Okay. What are you going to do with it? Where's it going to go? Are you going to like put it back into your property or what? The other one that he, mentioned that's sort of similar to the HELOC is doing a cash out refinance on your first mortgage. I mean, in this environment, it might not be ideal because what they typically want to do, the same thing happens with a construction loan is if you borrow the money and you do the cash out refi, what they end up doing is they restructure all of the debt at the higher interest rate. So, you know, you would just have to sort of run those numbers and see if those numbers still make sense at the wherever we are now, like we're around 7%. Okay. The really good thing that we're going to have going into the next chapter, because this is getting a little bit long, is he's going to talk about the cost of management and development. And I think this chapter has so many gems. Okay. The next chapter. So stay with me. We're going through the book. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.